What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Tempus TV. I hope you're all doing well. Today we're covering one of my most frequently asked questions, and that is, how hard is it to travel Thailand if you don't speak any Thai? It may come as no surprise that I'm definitely not fluent in Thai. I know a little bit, I've picked up quite a bit since I've been here, but I'm gonna share with you my experiences and what I've seen and whether this is a thing or not. Let's do it. Just to preface the video a bit, this is all gonna be in relation to if you speak English. If you speak another language besides Thai or English, I can't really help you, I wouldn't really know, but from what I've seen, you might come into a little bit more trouble, but I'm basing all this off if your first language is English. So one of the main problems you might run into is apps, talking on the phone, things like that. So a lot of the time, if you're calling taxis, if you're ordering food, if stuff's getting delivered to your house, a lot of the time the taxi drivers will try to call you to figure out where to go or if you're gonna come down and grab your stuff, and this can be a bit of an issue. Obviously, if English isn't your first language, and even if you know a little bit, it can be hard to understand over the phone, and this goes if you know a little bit of Thai. Sometimes it can be really hard to tell if you don't see the body language. You can't actually see somebody's lips moving, so that can definitely make it difficult. So a lot of the times it helps to know the name of your building, be able to say that in Thai really easy. Know some numbers, so if anything, you can tell them your room number, whatever you need to do. I always say it's a good idea to learn how to count from 1 to 10 in Thai. It's actually pretty easy. And at the same time, quite a few of the delivery apps have chats that you can open up, and a lot of the times those apps translate, so that does help. Granted, the translation's never going to be perfect, but you can pretty much get the gist of what's going on. Something else that we've talked about in some previous videos is Thailand is still very much a paper society. So we know in the States about 99% of things you need to do, you can do online, and most web pages and stuff all have translations, which makes things super easy. But if you ever come across something that you need to do in Thailand that involves some paperwork, anything with like a bank, immigration, any like housing stuff, registrations, licenses for cars and things like that, a lot of the times these forms are all going to be paper, and a lot of the times there will be translations for both, but the English translations can be a little bit weird sometimes, and especially on official paperwork you want to make sure you're filling out everything properly, because a lot of the times at these places the lines are crazy, and if you don't have the right paperwork or you filled something out wrong, you got to jump to the back of the line, which is a bummer. So be prepared for that. If you do have to do any official paperwork, a lot of the times this can be pretty difficult if you don't know any Thai. It's always good to have like a Thai friend or something that you can, take a picture of, send it to them, and maybe they can help you translate it. I've had to do that quite a few times. But yeah, just wrap your mind around that. If you got to go fill out any type of official paperwork, it's going to be that exactly. It's going to be paperwork. You're probably not going to be able to do it online. So if you're in the bigger cities, the more notorious travel destinations, obviously it's going to be a little bit easier to find somebody who speaks English. Now, like we said earlier, if English isn't your first language, this might not make any type of a difference for you, because all the Thais that I've met, they really only speak Thai. They probably speak Cambodian a little bit, some Lao, and a little bit of English. But if Russian, if you're coming from anywhere in Europe and English isn't your first language, this can make it a little bit harder. And a lot of the times too, obviously, even though we all speak English, we all have different accents. So Thais might be able to understand you if you're from the UK or you're from America or Australia, but they might have trouble if you're from Europe, and vice versa. And a lot of the time too, a lot of Thais that do speak English, their English is very limited. So if you want to have a full-blown conversation, or you have some really in-depth questions, or you really need like details, it can be really hard to try to figure it out. So just be prepared, especially if you're in the smaller places. It's going to be even harder to find people that speak English, and if you do, their English still might be very limited. So you might be held to much lower levels of conversation. Now, like we said, once you get out of the bigger cities, English is going to become less and less prevalent. Not to say that you won't be able to find people, it's just not going to be as frequent. And another big thing once you do get out of the cities, if you drive around Bangkok, Pattaya, Phuket, and you're looking for, say, a restaurant that's serving some type of food, or you're looking to go shopping somewhere, a lot of the signs will be in Thai and they'll be in English, or a lot of them, especially here in Pattaya, are just English. Once you get out of the bigger cities and you head up north, or maybe the kind of, south area between Bangkok and Phuket, this isn't going to be a thing anymore. All the signs are going to be in Thai. And if you've ever been to Thailand, you understand that how many signs might be on the same building, so it can be really hard to find what you're looking for a lot of the times. Also, once you get out of the bigger cities, Google Maps isn't really as reliable, especially after the pandemic and everything. A lot of places that are still listed on Google might be closed. So this is something that you need to prepare for, and there are ways to translate signs, but if you're driving or anything like that, you're driving down the road, a big one that I had to deal with is once you get out of the cities, a lot of the gas stations won't have what type of fuel they actually have on their signs, so you pull up, and if your car takes a specific type of fuel like E20 or something like that that's not exactly normal, it might be kind of hard to get that across, which can definitely give you a little anxiety because obviously you don't want to put the wrong fuel in your car. But if you're leaving the cities, just be prepared to have to search a little bit more and have to do a little bit more research if you're looking for certain places. Or if you're trying to find your hotel and the sign is not in English, that's one I've had to deal with as well. One that I ran into recently that I didn't really think about until I got here, I've kind of like finagled and kind of figured out my way so far, but recently I accidentally locked my keys in my condo and I had to find a locksmith. So getting online, finding a locksmith, calling the locksmith, having to explain to him where I was. Once he got here, having to explain to him which room and which condo it was. So any services, say you break a pipe in your house and you need a plumber and you got to call them and explain what's going on so they can know to bring the right tools and things like that. This one can be super difficult because a lot of the times most businesses, especially here in Thailand, don't necessarily have websites. A ton of them just use Facebook, and everything on their Facebook will be in Thai, the locations will be in Thai, and then when you go to call them, they only speak Thai, so that can be really difficult. So if you do find a plumber that speaks English, a locksmith that speaks English, any type of like services, a mechanic that speaks English, these are all ones that you definitely want to save the number and keep them close to your chest because those can be very convenient. Mechanics were one of the big ones. When I needed my bike worked on, trying to find a mechanic that I could explain what I needed, even though they are very smart and there are some amazing mechanics here, sometimes it can be hard to just explain what exactly is going on. Hey, making a funny noise, things like that. So when you do find those guys, make sure you save the number, give them a good review, and hold on to that number. One that I get asked about quite a bit is ordering food. So like we said earlier, in the bigger cities, 9 times out of 10, this isn't gonna be a problem. If they're used to having tourists around, 9 times out of 10, they'll have an English and a Thai menu, so that's no big deal. The signs for what the restaurant is will also have English, but like we said, once you get out of the cities, this can prove much more difficult. The signs themselves will be wholly in Thai, and if you know anything about Thailand, sometimes it can be hard to tell if places are even a restaurant or what exactly the spot is because they're kind of like tucked away or like off the main road. And especially if you have like certain dietary needs, if you want to modify the food, if you want to ask for no MSG, no sugar and things like that, if you don't speak Thai, this can be very difficult. I definitely recommend if you don't like spicy or if you don't like extra sugar, if you don't like MSG, learn how to say those in Thai, learn how to say no, and then learn how to say whatever it is that you don't want, and really try to get it across, of course, while being polite, that this is something that you don't want. Because a lot of the times, if Thais are confused, they might just agree, nod their head and smile because they don't want things to be uncomfortable for anybody, and then you're still gonna get spicy food. So this is definitely one, especially if you're planning on traveling up north, the food is much different compared to the big cities. So reading a menu, understanding what you're exactly ordering, and how to modify it if you have specific needs, especially if you're like vegetarian, something like that, this is really something you need to know. But be prepared for that. When you leave the cities, ordering food is going to be a little bit more of a hassle. Not a big deal. There's apps and stuff where you can translate, and that should help you out a bit. A random one that I didn't think about too much before I got here, which I should have, is like random kiosks and ATMs. So most ATMs, they'll have an English option, especially like we said in the bigger cities. There's obviously a trend here if you picked up on it yet. But some of like kiosks and things like that, like if you are out of town and you need to buy a bus ticket or you need to go up and check in for something and they have a kiosk, a lot of the times these will only be in Thai. And one thing that's a bummer about like Google Translate and stuff, when you take a photo of things, sometimes if you're trying to take a photo of a screen, Google Translate really has trouble with it. So this is one that if you are planning on going up out of town and you don't feel like you have enough money on you or anything like that, I definitely recommend hitting an ATM before you get out of town. If you're planning on buying bus tickets or anything like that, see if you can do it online. And if not, 99% of the time they'll have a counter as well where you can go up and buy your ticket and they will understand what you need even if you don't speak Thai. So if you're planning on staying in the bigger cities, this isn't really something that I think you're gonna have to worry about too much unless you're trying to really immerse yourself in the culture. Obviously it really helps to speak Thai and then you can really get involved in things. It's a lot easier to make friends, stuff like that. But between Google Translate and then somebody who speaks English, which is generally pretty easy to find, you should be okay most of the time. The only times you're gonna have to deal with it a little bit more is obviously when you're out of the big cities, and that's something you can totally prepare for if you're ready for it beforehand. As always, guys, thank you so much for tuning into Tempus TV. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about what you need to have together before you come to Thailand, go ahead and click on this video right here. As always, I hope you guys have a great day. Tell somebody you love them. We'll catch you in the next one.